So let's talk about the Save Our Seas Act, if we could. And again, thank you all for being here. I want to thank also the members of Congress that are with us. That's Senator Dan Sullivan, who's been absolutely terrific, worked along with Sheldon Whitehouse, and these two have been spearheading something that's very important, and we want to thank you both, Sheldon. Thank you, Dan.
Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. It's really is. I know you worked very hard on it.
Work well together.
And Mrs. Sullivan, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it very much. We have Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross, who worked along with the senators, and acting NOAA Administrator Admiral Tim Gallaudet. You're here, and thank you for being here, Tim. Thank you very much. Great job you're doing. Every year, over 8 million tons of garbage is dumped into our beautiful oceans by many countries of the world. That includes China, that includes Japan, that includes many, many countries. This waste, trash, and debris harms not only marine life, but also fishermen, coastal economies along America's vast stretches. The bad news is it floats toward us. I've seen pictures recently, and some of you have seen them, where this vast, tremendous, unthinkable amount of garbage is floating right into our coast, in particular along the West Coast. And we're charged with removing it, which is a very unfair situation. It comes from other countries very far away. It takes 6 months and a year to float over, but it gets here, and it's a very unfair situation. It's also unbelievably bad for the oceans. Every year, over 8 million tons of garbage is dumped into our beautiful oceans. And when you think of that number, I mean, to think 8 million tons, and I would say it's probably, senators, I think it's probably more than that based on what I've seen and based on the kind of work that I've seen being done. This dumping has happened for years and even for decades. Previous administrations did absolutely nothing to take on the foreign countries responsible. We've already notified most of them, and we've notified them very strongly. The Save Our Seas Act will help address this problem by extending the marine debris program for 5 additional years. We also are strengthening that up to improve waste management overseas and clean up our nation's water. We will boost the federal government's response to oceans waste by authorizing the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration to declare severe marine debris events, which happen all the time. It's incredible. It's incredible. When you look at it, people don't realize it, but all the time we're being inundated by debris from other countries. This legislation will release funds to states for cleanup and for response efforts, and we will be responding, and very strongly. The legislation also encourages the executive branch to engage with those nations responsible for dumping garbage into our oceans. My administration is doing exactly that. For example, the new United States-Mexico-Canada agreement is the first U.S. trade agreement ever to include commitments by the parties to cooperate to address land and sea-based pollution and improve waste management. And I can tell you that Dan and Sheldon were very insistent on trying to get that into the USMCA, the new agreement that we have with Canada and Mexico. And we'll be putting it into other agreements also. The United States has some of the most beautiful beaches and oceans in the world, and the coastlines are incredible. As president, I will continue to do everything I can to stop other nations from making our oceans into their landfills. That's why I'm pleased, very pleased, I must say, to put my signature on this important legislation. And again, I'd like to thank Dan and Sheldon and all of the people, the Admiral and Wilbur, all of the people that worked so hard on this. This was a tough one, but it had great bipartisan support. What was the final vote?
It was a unanimous consent.
Unanimous.
Yes, sir.
Bipartisan. Did you ever think, John, you'd hear that? Bipartisan. Well, that's pretty good. Can you imagine Trump and White House in the same area? It's all right. Hey, I have a lot of respect.
And what the president said about the administration, the Trump administration, doing a great job on this. It's an underreported story, but they are really taking the lead globally. And Mr. President, we want to thank you for
Well, I want
bipartisan.
to thank you, and I want to thank Sheldon. Thank you. Come here, Sheldon. See, we can shake hands.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for doing that. I appreciate it. Mr. Wilbur, thank you. Admiral, thank you very much. All right, let's get this done properly, huh? Okay,
Right.
so with that, we're all completed, and I just want to say it's an honor, and hopefully that goes a long way for our oceans. We've notified other countries that have been abusers. They abuse the ocean. We've notified them already about this, and they're doing things. They tell us they're doing things, and I think in some cases at least they are, but they will be. And I want to thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Sheldon.
President.
Thank you
Philippines
very
up
much.
next, Mr. President.
Congratulations. Yes, that's
Philippines
right.
up next. They're one of the worst three.
Well, that's right. That's going to be interesting.
thank you.
So you're working on that?
We are.
That's very
With
good.
your
All
trade
right.
team on the Philippine trade agreement.
We're okay with
Make sure
that.
this is a part of it.
I understand. A lot comes from there. Yes.
President, what exactly is the U.S. doing as an investigator in missing Saudi journalists? You said you were U.S. investigators?
Yes, we're looking at it. We're looking at it very strongly. We'll be having a report out soon. We're working with Turkey. We're working with Saudi Arabia. What happened is a terrible thing, assuming that happened. I mean, maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised, but somehow I tend to doubt it, and we take it very seriously.
Do the U.S. have any kind of responsibility to warn him if such a
Well, we have, it's not our country. It's in